sorry I've been missing the last few weeks. I've been pretty busy, but World Rugby's Shape of the Game conference is one of the most influential forums for coaches, players, referees, and just pundits of the game to put their ideas together to improve the state of rugby. The first conference resulted in speeding up the game when it comes to conversions, penalties, time wasting, lineouts, and scrums, as well as a massive cut down on TMO time and interference during a game, and the push to lower the tackle height. Now, there was a couple of other recommendations, but these really were the big ticket items. So what does this year's conference bring? And is it for better or for worse? I'll let you be the judge, but I'll definitely give you my personal opinion.
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care.
Let me tell you something.
We don't care.
Speed and flow of the game is the top recommendation coming out of the conference. And we can all anticipate this will be the biggest change we see at all levels of rugby. The user call at the breakdown should start to have a bit more meaning. I'm confident that this is to weed out the 5-man caterpillar rucks that turn into a box kick. We should start to see the ball played a bit quicker. Repeated scrums are also set to be removed. If the ball's playable, the referee will probably just let the game continue, or blow a short arm penalty. Boys, I'm intellectually challenged when it comes to the statement expanding the remit of the shot clock. I genuinely have no idea what this means. My guess would be that that shot clock that's coming up during conversions and penalty kicks starts to carry over during scrums and lineouts, but if someone with a brain could please clear this up in the comments for me, that would be greatly appreciated.
So that was a lie.
The DuPont loophole is set to be reviewed as well. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, I made a whole video on this, so highly recommend checking it out after this video. And there's also a push for greater space and protection from the base of the scrum, rucks and mauls for the scrum halves. This will definitely mean scrum halves can't follow the ball past the tunnel at scrum time. The backs will definitely get to execute a bit more set piece plays and should make for more exciting rugby. Personally, pretty happy with the calls being made.
I'm gonna come. Oh.
It is a lot of changes, so I expect World Rugby to come up with a set of directives over the next month or two that will be released and enacted around all levels of rugby. They might opt for a slow release just because it is so significant, but knowing World Rugby, they'll just do all in one big hit. So what other changes to our game did the Brains Trust put forward? You see, that was all just under that one category of speed and flow of the game. Well, their second recommendation was to improve the language and presentation of the game. Basically making the game more marketable to a wider audience and having some consistent languages for people new to the game. Is it a pilfer or is it a jackal? Things like that. I think we can all agree though, marketing has pretty much been non-existent from World Rugby for a little while now, so it should be refreshing to see more rugby content out there. Hopefully this means they stop copyright striking every content creator, but we can only hope. The third recommendation was an emphasis on the women's game. Look, I really am not sure what the thoughts or ideas were that were put on the table when this recommendation was put forward. It's probably the most vague of all of these. If anyone knows and can clear this up in the comments, that would be awesome. The fourth suggestion looked at player well-being and welfare, specifically the breakdown techniques being used and completely eliminating the croc roll. Croc rolls have pretty much been the main counter to a pilferer that's set up in a good position, over the ball. We might start to see a few more turnovers in the game, but I'm sure someone will come up with a new idea that's just not a regular clean out to stop the jackal. And the last recommendation was looking at the disciplinary process review. There seems to be two different interpretations of this recommendation at the moment. The first one being looking at the TMO and making those sanctions really clean cut on the field. But I'm more led to believe, and a few others, is that it's actually looking at the length of suspensions and bans for players based on their degree of danger or the foul play they've committed. So why some players are getting a 1-game suspension, where someone who does something very similar gets a 6-game suspension, making those judgments really clean cut for everybody across all levels of rugby. People are getting a little bit sick of all the changes, but I think these ones are all better for the game and make a lot of sense. So often the top of the hierarchy is completely out of touch with what's happening in the game, but I even agree with Alan Gilpin's take on the game at the moment. The game's competing in a market where attention is the main driver, and if we can start to make rugby a spectacle and have content that's engaging and start bringing more storytelling into the game, it will really help grow rugby. That storytelling aspect is something I think World Rugby's missed a lot of, especially over the last few years. We're so busy silencing players on any issue or opinion they might have that they don't get to develop any public personality, and people sort of need these personalities so we can choose to love them or hate them. And I think it's a good thing for the game if there's some players we love to watch and there's other players we hate and love to see do poorly. He also said we need to simplify the sport, and I think it's probably one of the hardest things for rugby at the moment. Is one of the most beautiful games in the world is so complicated that it's really hard to pick up for new fans. I definitely don't envy the man whose job it is to simplify our game. Let us know your thoughts from the Shaping the Game conference and any fears you might have after hearing this. Thanks for watching.